Hey everybody, welcome back to Appalachian Cemetery Hunting. Now today is our third and final video of the Eusebia Cemetery in Blount County, Tennessee. So let's get started. We have James Lawrence, known as Jimmy McTeer Jr., 1938 to 2020, and he served with the Air Force. With Martin McTeer, 1771 to 1853. Robert McTeer, 1740 to 1824, and Robert served as a captain of the Cumberland County, Pennsylvania militia during the American Revolution. This historical roadside marker is the site of McTeer's fort that he established in 1784. Now, he was the first white person to settle in what is now Blount County, Tennessee, and brought many people in this area to live. The first school was also established here, and it's area's first polling place. This marker was placed at the actual site of the fort by the Daughters of the American Revolution in 1936. That's some history. Then we have William McTeer, 1780 to 1862. William served as first sergeant during the War of 1812. We have another William M. McTeer, 1853 to 1930, and he was a member of the lower house of the 42nd General Assembly of Tennessee in 1881. Now, this is a group picture of the members of the lower house. Now we have Joseph Miller. We have no dates for him, but we do know that Joseph served in Company K of the 2nd Tennessee Cavalry in the Union Army during the Civil War. Now we have John Cecil Mize, 1880 to 1959. He fought in the Spanish-American War as a private in Company L of the 4th Tennessee Infantry. Now is Luther Mize, 1908 to 1973, and Luther served as a Chief Petty Officer in the U.S. Navy during World War II. Rufus L. Mize, 1840 to 1960, and his wife, Harriet Flynn Mize, 1848 to 1911, and he served as a sergeant in Company K of the 2nd Tennessee Cavalry in the Union Army during the Civil War. And he was also wounded in the left shoulder at the Battle of Decatur, Alabama, on October the 27th of 1864. Now we have Edward Houston Murphy, 1837 to 1906, and here's an actual photo of him. We have his wife, Urella Elizabeth Hooper Murphy, 1839 to 1917, but we don't have a picture of her grave. Then we have William D. Newman Sr., 1915 to 1984. William fought in World War II as a private first class in the U.S. Army. We have William David Newman Jr., 1942 to 1994, and he served in the U.S. Air Force as an airman second class. Melvin M. Norman, 1922 to 2000, and this photo was taken at Greenwood Army Airfield Training Command in Mississippi in 1943, and he was stationed there with the U.S. Army Air Corps. Next, we have Elmer Owens, 1918 to 1998. He served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. Arthur A. Peterson, 1923 to 1995. He served in the U.S. Army during World War II also. Cynthia Cowan Pickens, 1811 to 1889. And sorry, we don't have a picture of her grave. We have Elizabeth Roe Houston Pickens, 1827 to 1906. And here's a picture of her. Then we have John Pickens, 1751 to 1835. And John served as a captain during the American Revolution. He was a member of the Virginia Continental Line during the war. And look here, this is a picture of his homestead. Isn't that cool? And here's his wife, Letitia or Lettia Hannah Pickens, 1767 to 1841. We have Robert Pickens, 1810 to 1896. And here's a picture of him. Then we have Samuel Pickens, 1799 to 1862. Now, Samuel was a judge and state senator from Tennessee. During the Civil War, he was one of many East Tennesseans who were loyal to the Union that conspired to burn railroad bridges in the eastern part of the state in order to hinder the Confederates' movements. This is a picture of the cover from Harper's Weekly during the war. It shows the bridge burners swearing allegiance to the American flag. And this is a depiction of some of the men that was burning a bridge. Now, this picture was taken in 1864, and it shows a Union soldier guarding a railroad bridge at Strawberry Plains area of Knoxville, Tennessee. The bridge burners had attacked this previous bridge at this location. The next three pictures are articles from different newspapers about Samuel Pickens. I'm going to read each one of them to you. And so this first one is from the Memphis Daily Appeal newspaper, and it's dated January the 17th of 1862. So it reads, Judge Pickens, who was sometime since left to Tuscaloosa as a prisoner of war from this city, died recently while being transferred from the latter place to Mobile. Since the incarceration, his wife and daughter both have died, and now the husband and father follows them to their grave. This article is for the Natchez Democrat newspaper, and this one's dated January the 29th of 1862. It says, Judge Pickens, state senator in Tennessee, who was arrested for being implicated the East Tennessee bridge burning and taken to Tuscaloosa, died on his passage between Mobile and that place. His son was killed a short time before the arrest of Judge Pickens while attempting to fire a bridge, and since his incarceration, his wife and daughter have both died, so states an exchange. And then the next one, the last one that I'm going to read, is an article from Brownlow's Knoxville Whig newspaper from August the 30th of 1865. And it's about a testimony given during a hearing concerning a lawsuit brought by Samuel Pickens, heirs against William H. Sneed and others. So this is kind of lengthy, so bear with me. We understand that the head devils of the late rebellion, whose property has been turned over to Union men by juries of the country in suits of damages, have sent their rebel kin and their women back to sue for the recovery of their effects, and that they have employed rebel lawyers to go at the work regularly. They will see many days of sorrow and anxiety before they succeed. The heaviest damages recovered were in the Circuit Court of Knox County by the heirs of Judge Pickett versus W. H. Sneed and others. They were allowed $40,000. It was in testimony on the trial that Sneed had pointed to Judge Pickens as he was marched through the streets under rebel bayonets, under arrest, and said, "There goes a D.O. traitor, who ought to be shot and quartered." Judge Pickens was between 60 and 70 years of age, a state senator at the time, and a man of high standing. His entire offense was that he was a Union man. We shall never forget the morning he was marched out of jail from us and sent to Tuscaloosa, on which the trip he died. He was very bad health, and we remarked at that time to our fellow prisoners remaining that we would never see Judge Pickens again. He was shamefully murdered, mainly at the instance of William H. Sneed and John H. Crozer. The news of his death so shocked his aged and afflicted wife that she sank under it to her grave. And a loved daughter also died from that same cause. 3 gallant sons entered the Federal Army and have been fighting the battles of the Union. Our only astonishment is that the survivors of the family have contented themselves with suits for damages against the wicked, malignant succession murderers of their vulnerable age, afflicted and esteemed parent. True, these men kept out of the way from the consciousness of guilt and danger, and they will do well to keep away in our humble judgment. Now, with that story, you can just imagine this elderly man being walked down the streets in Knoxville with bayonets at his back. How sad. Okay, let's move along. We've got Samuel Robert Pickens, 1919 to 2001, and he was a staff sergeant with the U.S. Army during World War II. Samuel Wiley Pickens, 1830 to 1906. Here's a picture of his military headstone, and this Samuel served as a major in the 3rd Tennessee Cavalry of the Union Army during the Civil War. This photo of his was taken during the war, and we think this picture was taken probably sometime after. Now we have Thomas H. Pickens, 1864 to 1897, and he was a young doctor. You'll notice his monument has a curtain or drape carved on the top. Now these carvings symbolize the passage from one type of existence to another. And here's a photo of him. Now we have William Cowan Pickens, 1825 to 1872. And one source says he was a clerk and master in Blount County, Tennessee, from 1864 to 1867. He was sheriff in Sevier County, Tennessee, from 1851 to 1852. He lived in Sevier County the greatest part of his life, but he did live for a little while in Maryville, Tennessee. He owned a tanning yard there at one time. And according to our source, he also served as colonel in the 3rd Tennessee Cavalry during the Civil War. Now we have Joseph Marion, also known as Joe Pike, 1935 to 2013. He was a veteran of the U.S. Army. Watson Richard, also known as Watt Pitner, 1900 to 1973, or Pittner, sorry if I'm butchering some names. He served in the U.S. Army as a private in World War II. Now we have Fanny Sharp Porter, 1768 to 1848. Easter Kennedy Ray, 1792 to 1855. And her husband, Samuel Houston Ray, 1791 to 1864. Clayton D. Riggs, 1914 to 1981, and Clayton served with the U.S. Army during World War II. George Riggs, 1877 to 1967, and he served as a private in the Company H of the 2nd Kentucky Infantry during the Spanish-American War. Now we have George W. Riggs, 1909 to 1941, and he served as a sergeant in C Troop of the 5th Cavalry in the U.S. Army. Then we have Hajan Leon Riggs, 1920 to 2006. He served as a technician, 4th class in the U.S. Army during World War II. Now we have Jean Russon. She has a death date of 1830, and her headstone says she was 80 years old, so that means she was born in 1750. Next was Isabella A. or Ibby McChesney Sharp, 1774 to 1810. John Sharp Jr., 1762 to 1844. And here's his military headstone. And he actually fought in the Revolutionary War and the Indian Wars. Next is John Guilford Sharp, 1894 to 1980. He fought in World War I. Alexander A. Shaver. We have no dates for him, but his headstone says that he was only 62 when he died, and according to his headstone, he served in Company A of the 3rd Tennessee Regiment, but we don't know which side he was on. And I'm thinking here as I'm reading these, I don't think that we've missed a war yet. These men were fighters buried here. Okay, let's move along. We got Anne Rankin Shedden, 1771 to 1852. Joseph Shedden, 1781 to 1871. Susan Simic, 1921 to 2010, and she served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. After the war, Susan worked in Germany for the Radio Free Europe. That's cool. Now we have Glasgow Snoddy, 1799 to 1859. His wife Margaret V. Cresswell Snoddy, 1794 to 1876. Howard James Sutton, 1933 to 2019, and he served in the U.S. Army. And here's a picture of him. Then we have John W. Taylor. Don't have a birth date, but his death date is 1858. Says he was 83 years old when he passed, so that means he was born in 1775. Then we have his wife Mary Taylor. Same thing, no birth date, a death date of 1858. Says she was 65 when she died, so she was born in 1793. And they died 9 days apart. That's sad. Now we have Carl Burns Tipton, 1932 to 2018. He served in the U.S. Army during the Korean War. Delmar Tipton, 1909 to 1988. He served in the U.S. Army during World War II. William Robert, also known as Bob Tipton, 1930 to 2024. He served in the Air Force. We have Gilbert R. Walker, 1842 to 1877. And according to the inscription on his headstone, he served in the Union Army during the Civil War, but there is no information as to which regiment. We have his father, James H. Walker, 1818 to 1898, and he was a captain in Company F of the 2nd Tennessee Cavalry of the Union Army during the Civil War. Now we have Robert Wallace. We don't have any dates for him, but he was a veteran of the American Revolution. There is a picture of the memorial to all the Revolutionary War veterans that we're going to show here. We have John E. Walton, 1842 to 1906. Here's a picture of his military headstone. And John fought in the Civil War in Company D of the 10th Pennsylvania Infantry in the Union Army during the Civil War. We have Jewel K. Watson, 1915 to 1987, and he was a veteran of the U.S. Army. Then Lynch Den D. Webb, 1855 to 1916, and he was a medical doctor who lived in Knoxville, Tennessee, but we don't have any photo of his grave. Sorry about that. Next we have Bon Whaley, 1932 to 2006, and he served with the U.S. Air Force during the Korean War. Now we have John Williams, 1769 to 1848, Nancy Williams, 1769 to 1841, Richard Williams, 1767 to 1845, and Sally or Sarah Bogle Williams, 1774 to 1831. That's a lot of new settlers, old settlers, lots of people that's fought in every war imaginable here on our soil. I tell you, this was an awesome video. Little cemetery full of history. We sincerely hope that you liked it. This is, like I said earlier, our last video on this. There's many more people buried there. And we would love to have the time to mention each and every name, but we just can't get it all in one video. We appreciate you watching. We hope you like and share and subscribe, especially subscribe. And we'll see you next time with another old video from Appalachian Cemetery Hunting. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.